So we now come to the session on one of the hottest topics in India, which is GST. And I think, it's still a bit of a black box. Not everything is known about it, how to go about it, what does it mean. So a lot of questions out there. And we have with us Mukesh, who's going to share the SAP viewpoint on this and to what extent, there is a roadmap for the transition as of now. Thank you.
Okay, so before I even start, first of all, thanks a lot for all of you for spending this entire day with us. So, how many of you already are aware of all the prerequisites that SAP has shared so far when it comes to GST? Quick show of hands, please. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover 2 or 3 things. The first thing that I'm going to cover is talk about where we are in the entire GST rollout from a nation perspective. And I'll talk about some of the things that you need to be ready before we even start talking about GST implementation, as in prerequisites for each one of your organizations. Then I'll talk about where and how SAP can help in terms of, specific services that SAP has created for you to use and, do this entire migration smoothly. And finally, I will also talk about where we stand vis-a-vis development and release.
Hello.
Is there a problem? Okay, super. So this is what we are going to cover. What is the status? What you should do? Implementation services from SAP. So the current status, as you know, the law has been passed. The president has also ratified the law. Now it is for the government to finalize what this act is going to look like in terms of formal communication, in terms of what CGST is going to look like, or how SGST is going to look like, what will be the taxation percentages, and all of that. That needs to be passed by the parliament, state legislators. The GST network, which is going to be the backbone on which the entire GST is going to be running, is under development by Infosys. I'm sure you already know all about that. We also had the CEO of GSTN actually present the entire roadmap at our Delhi conference. The entire video recording of that presentation is available on the Indus YouTube channel. So if you want to look at what GSTN is doing from a GST perspective, where they are in the entire journey, you can also look at that video as well. That will give you a very clear roadmap in terms of what was the thinking behind and where the development of the GST network itself is going towards, and what roles will providers and tax service providers and GSTN service providers are going to play, and how all of this is going to get integrated and play into one seamless network, right? So that's something that is available on that video. So that's something which will get launched. As of now, 1st April 2017 seems to be the date when this entire thing will become official, which means that you need to be ready and rolled out as on 1st of April, right? So what should you do now? So the first thing that you need to do from a technology readiness perspective, from a system readiness perspective, is to be able to fulfill all these prerequisites, right? So first prerequisite is you need to be on tax INN. So not on INJ, but on tax INN. How many of you here are on tax INJ? A quick show of hands. Okay, so that's probably the first step that you need to do, which is to migrate from tax INJ to tax INN. And if you are at any of these releases, you have to be at these support packs. It doesn't matter whether you are at the latest SAP release or not, but whatever release you are on, you have to be at the latest service pack or for that particular release. So if you actually have a look at it and you think about which release of SAP are you on, and correlate whether or not you are at the right service pack level or not. Because if you are not at that service pack level, whatever solution SAP is going to release, you will not be able to implement. Okay? So how many of you are not at these service pack levels based whatever releases that we are talking about? A quick show of hands. Is everyone at these service pack levels? No? Yes? No? Yes? Okay, super. So all of this information is also available at the SAP note that SAP had created some time back. Now, so what is the steps, right? Yes, please. Yeah, that will not change.
So it is
Final.
full and final. I mean,
As-
it's not that it's a moving target.
I don't think it's a moving target.
That's an important one. We all went by that note.
Yes. So it is something that SAP very clearly mentioned, not just now, we've been talking about it through Indus as well, across all cities. So we did a 8-city tour of GST readiness. Calcutta was also part of that. I think we did it in Calcutta 4-5 months back, where we had the development guys come and talk about the importance of being on these service packs for GST implementation as well, right? So how the entire thing works now, the first thing is the government needs to provide the GST law and all the notifications. As you know, how CGST, SGST will work, what will be the percentage and all of that. So while the government is working on that, doesn't mean that we can just wait for the government to come up and then start acting. What SAP can do in parallel is already SAP is developing a design and development phase right now for the GST solution. SAP already has GST solutions implemented in other countries where GST is already live. So there's not a big significant amount of development that needs to be done, but whatever solution SAP has for other countries needs to be adapted for the law that India will actually pass. Right? So there will be some amount of development that still needs to be done that the development team is already working on as we speak right now. Okay? So from a customer perspective, what you need to do? As customers, what you need to do? So number one, you need to understand how this entire thing impacts your business. Does it change any of your business processes? Do you want to look at entire business processes at all? If not, then what next, right? So you need to have your SAP systems ready when it comes to the prerequisites. So the slide that I mentioned earlier. And undertake the GST implementation project with wherein you configure or reconfigure your SAP systems based on either existing business processes or the changed business or redesigned business processes, right? Yeah. Yes. Yes.
That got released very recently, right?
Sorry?
SP08?
Uh-huh.
That got released very recently.
I don't know, to be very frank. I do not know when it got released, but I think it got released at least 4-5 months back, because the same slide has been used since about 7 months now.
Okay.
So I am assuming that this release was there 7 months prior as well.
Like EHP7 for SAP ERP 60, that's also for HANA, right?
Yeah. So all of this.
So only there you have mentioned HANA, not.
So that is where it actually went for HANA.
Okay.
Right? And from there you kind of come here as well.
Okay. And 60617 bracket, you are mentioning EHP7, you're okay with that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that is a build, 617. Bracket, that 617 and 618?
Unfortunately, I do not know that.
Okay.
So I know that you need to be, for EHP7 6.0, you need to be at SP07. Unfortunately, I do not know what 617 means. Sorry about that. I can find out and let you know. Right? So, if you look at it from a steps perspective, basic project implementation, right? A program design, which is you need to have a preparation phase, you need to have a design phase, and you need to have an implementation phase. In the preparation phase, number one, you need to ensure that you have all the prerequisites fulfilled. In the design phase, you actually have a relook. If you want to have a relook at your entire business process and want to change anything, because you have to any which ways go through a change management process, right? So it is a good area for you to actually want to implement any other business process change as part of this process itself, so that it both happens together. Gives you an opportunity to also relook at your business processes and actually do the implementation, the actual project implementation. Now, SAP, when it comes to GST implementation, has a 4-pillar approach, right? So, while the entire global delivery, AGS and SAP Labs is going to be the pillar on which everything stands, SAP also is training its partner ecosystem to be able to deliver these implementation projects. At the same time, is also working with GSTN and the government in order to be able to ensure that whatever developments that SAP is doing is actually going to fulfill whatever is the law of the land. So, what are the 4 services that SAP offers? Assessment, migration, implementation, and QA expert. So, we'll talk about each one of these as we go along. So the entire thing starts with the assessment service. This is where you actually do a quick, clear assessment in terms of if there is any GST impact that GST is going to have on your business process itself, and what the roadmap is going to look like. If you're not on INN, then you need to go through a migration, which is INJ to INN. Right? If you're already on INN, then you move to the next step, which is the implementation service, and then all of this will be supported by the entire expert and QA services. So this is demand expert and quality services, right? If you do not want to engage SAP in the actual implementation, but you only want to have SAP actually tell whether what you are doing is right or wrong, so that's the service that you can use for. So let's go through all the services that SAP has one by one. So the GST Assessment Service. So this is a 2-step process. Basically what SAP will do is SAP experts will sit down with you, understand the entire scope, review your business processes which are getting impacted by the GST, understand what your GST objective is going to look like, review your developments, your custom developments, all your custom codes, understand your master data and system configurations, and if there is any change that needs to be done at that level, at the table level as well, and identify scope, the actual scope for the GST implementation itself. So the result of this service is you will get a detailed report which defines the implementation approach within the SAP system, and it also identifies implementation impacts and the risks associated with it. So that's the report that you get as part of the assessment service. Very clearly defined scope and very clearly defined and identified risks that you have when you're trying to implement this. The next one is the migration service. So this is a typical migration, so where first SAP experts will sit down, understand your system, identify the impacts, identify all the master data that needs to be changed, the tax calculation, all of that, then actually build and then go live. So testing, validation, production, and going live on the INN tax code. So this is the migration service. Then comes the GST implementation service itself. So this is where you'll actually have someone sit down with you, define all the GST based processes, what all impacts it has. SAP is already running GST on other countries. So there are already identified best practices from those countries which SAP can actually bring in and share with the customers based on the industry that you are in and based on your current business processes as well. So that, and then identify all the data requirements, technical, functional, all of that, and then create a design as to this is how the approach is going to look like, this is how the service methodology is going to look like, all the integration and acceptance testing, the UAT. So we also spoke about how important it is for all the users to understand and be on board whenever you're doing such a large migration process, right? So all of that is going to be done. And as part of delivery, you will also get the end user testing, final preparation, and go live. Then comes the QA, which is also available. If you look at it, all these services are designed to remain and to be used independent of each other. So if you only want to use the QA services to understand and define the scope and want to have the implementation done by a partner, you can do that. If you want to have the migration done by SAP, you can get just the migration done. If you want just the GST implementation done by SAP, you can have just that done. And if you only want to have the scope, then that is also something that you can get done. Right? So, before I conclude, I'd like to give a quick update on where we stand from a development perspective. The development team is right now working on the development of the solution itself. On the November 23rd, there's going to be an event in Delhi that SAP is going to put together, where SAP will actually share the solution for the GST. So what we want every one of our customers to be ready is by that time we would already want you to be ready in terms of all the system prerequisites already fulfilled, already identified all the business impacts, all of the scope, all of those ready, so that on November 23rd when SAP announces the solution, you can then start looking at actually going ahead and implementing it. So this is an event which is going to be put together in Delhi on the 23rd of November. Sorry? So right now, so I'll come to that. So this national event is going to be one event in Delhi where
GST will be ready?
yes, that's the plan as of now. And the idea is that on that event, they will actually announce the patch and all the notes that gets released, which will tell you what needs to be done from an actual implementation perspective. So you will still have about some time. And this is, of course, dependent on the government actually freezing out all the details by October. So that 15th of October, I think, if I'm not wrong, the date that they're saying is if we get all the details of the law frozen by the government, then November 23rd, they will have a solution ready.
We were given to understand it's going to be first week of January?
This is something that I just checked with the development team just before I got on stage, because I know that this is an important question and this is the information that they asked me to share. So 23rd of November is the date that they are looking at announcing the actual solution itself. Now there are two other things that I would like to share here as well. So one is that we are doing, so Indus has already done a 8-city roadmap, 8-city tour of GST readiness already. What we will also be doing is SAP is doing multiple events in multiple cities, and these are small events, very, very specifically invited. So for example, there is one happening in Calcutta on the 21st in Hayat, small gatherings. If you have already got the invite, please definitely go and attend. If you have not got the invite, please watch out for an invite, which you will get shortly. They've identified some way of identifying similar customers putting together, so that it's much more useful, much more in depth, and they can have much better interactions. So if you have not received the invites, no, September. Next week.
21st September.
Sorry? September. So next week there is an event.
Are you inviting all the Kolkata customers?
No. So that's what I said. What SAP is doing a step-by-step approach where they are inviting batches of customers. They cannot have all customers come together, because then it becomes very difficult to address queries. So what they are doing is they are doing it batch by batch. So the first batch is happening on the 21st of November. So if you have already received the invites, you are part of the first batch. If you have not received the invite, then you will be probably part of the second batch or the third batch.
Are you going to cover all the customers?
A segment, target segment.
We cannot force anyone to come and attend, right?
No. I mean, you are inviting all the customers?
Yeah. So the invites will go. We will have events which will invite and will be covered. The invitations will go to all customers. So that is for sure. In phases. We cannot do all in one go. So SAP has decided that they will do a phase by phase approach. First one happening on the 21st of November. So 21st of September, which is next week. So please have a look out on your inbox for an invite. And if you want, what I can also do is ensure that we will share all your contact details with the SAP team, so that even if they don't have your contacts in the database, they will get the database if that is okay with you. Is it okay if I share this data, all your email IDs with the customer, with the SAP team? Is that okay? Okay, sure. So you will get an invite for sure. So just keep a lookout on that invite as and when you get. So starting 21st of September is when SAP is rolling out these sessions. Okay? So that kind of concludes whatever I had to share. So if you have any questions, I will try and answer. If I can't answer, then probably I'll get back to you.
These particular services like assessment services, migration services, implementation, and expert services, Is it a part of the maintenance which
No,
provide
these
to SAP?
are paid services.
These are all paid services.
Paid services.
What would be the, I mean, amount or any financial? This thing?
Unfortunately, I am the wrong person to ask. Your account executive would be the right person to
Whom
ask.
should we ask to?
Whoever is your account executive, who SAP's representative for your account.
Okay.
If you don't know who that is, I can connect you to him or her.
No. We are having our Calcutta account executive.
Yes, correct. So he or she is the right person to ask.
Okay.
So any other questions? No? Okay.
There would be some handholding. I mean, during this whole process, if we opt for the paid services from SAP.
Yeah, of course. I mean, if it's a paid service that you're taking, then very clearly defined services as to this is what you will get as an end result of each one of these services. Very clearly defined. So you will get all of those as part of the service, as part of the paid service.
Okay.
What gets delivered as part of the maintenance is the actual patch which you can implement.
Okay.
Yeah, can someone give the mics there at the back? The last gentleman.
In this entire exercise, if one can understand correctly, the pricing is the only part both in purchase and the sales side which is going to be affected with whatever rates the government is going to come. So we may be having one pricing which have many lines, may reduce to a little lesser number of lines, and the claim and procedure for the modified would change. Is anything beyond that?
So that depends on the complexity of the business. So for example, what is applicable to you may not be the same that is applicable
Again,
to ITC.
that is pricing only. No, I am having an X pricing. I move into another X, Y pricing. That is it.
So see, while I am not an expert at this, but what my understanding is that it all depends on even the business model that you have. For example, in your business, I'm sorry, which business are you?
Manufacturing.
Which manufacturing?
Steel.
Steel, right? So the way steel manufacturing pricing works is very different from an FMCG manufacturing pricing.
Correct.
So which is different from a glass manufacturing pricing.
Correct.
And so the complexity of the business and the complexity of the pricing has an impact.
Yeah, no,
So
my question was basic engine will not change. I mean, only that part of this engine will be affected, is it?
So I cannot
SAP engine, I'm talking about the SAP engine.
So I can't answer that question unless I understand a little more about. Maybe
Fair,
I can connect you to the expert there and he can help you out.
Fair.
Yeah.
Your partners for this GST implementation, are they properly educated?
So there
Or
is there has been a lot of engagements with the partners as well throughout the last 6-7 months, where we have worked with partners on enabling them on doing implementation services as well, implementing the GST solution as well, and all the prerequisites as well. So I'm sure that there will be some partners who are also capable of delivering these implementation services.
Okay.
Sorry?
Can the presentation be shared?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, we'll do that. Anything else? Any other questions? No? Okay.
Thank you so
Thanks a
much,
lot.
Mukesh.